Good day and welcome to SCO BRICS Insight. Today I want to talk about how Russia has overcome a serious hurdle in its power generation system and its reliance on Western engineering and technology. Now, while the West has pinned its hopes on renewable energy, including wind turbines and solar panels, Russia's pushed ahead with the development of its gas-fired and hydroelectric power stations as well as nuclear plants. Now, one of the major problems it faced was it had to import turbines for its power plants from abroad, from companies such as Siemens and General Electric. Now, after a few years of development plus trial and error, Russia has now successfully transitioned away from its reliance on high power gas turbines from Siemens and GE. And this is according to the head of Rostec, Sergei Chemenos. Now, he said that Russia's achieved this independently, unlike Iran, which has relied on external assistance. Now, the first of the newly developed turbines will be installed at a power plant on the Taman Peninsula. Now, what factors led to Russia becoming so reliant on Western high-powered gas turbines? Well, the collapse of the Soviet Union resulted in a loss of certain technologies. It's important to note that during the Soviet era, the production of high-powered gas turbines, including those for naval ships as well as power plants, were located in the Ukraine. Now, following the dissolution of the Soviet Union, these capabilities stayed in the Ukraine. Initially, Ukraine supplied gas turbine engines for Russian naval vessels and power plants. However, over time, these economic ties were gradually disrupted due to the Nikolaev-Zoraya MASH project plant's inability to deliver on its promises. Now, this resulted in Russia being unable to continue to build a number of ships for its navy or turbines for its power plants. It became clear that Russia had two options: to develop independently its gas power turbines or to buy them from abroad. Now, the GTD-110M gas turbine was created in the 1990s, and it was based on the previously unsuccessful model of the GT-10. Now, that was developed from the Nikolaev Zorya MASH project plant. Now, a new turbine was developed and trialled at the Ivano State District Power Plant and the Ryazan District Power Plant in the late 2000s. However, these products encountered numerous technological challenges and they had to be abandoned. In the light of this, Russia started to buy its high-powered gas turbines abroad. Now, these were installed en masse at the power plants under construction in Russia. Now, the difficulty in creating large gas turbines really lie in their high technological requirements and the complexity of their engineering solutions. The development of this equipment requires serious in-depth knowledge of materials, science, heat transfer, aerodynamics, and precise manufacturing processes. Now, experience in the aviation industry is certainly useful, but the technology transfer between the two sectors takes time and effort, and that's according to Yaroslav Kavakov, who's the Director of Strategy at the Finam investment company. So Russia has to overcome its dependence on foreign-made and high-power gas turbines. Now, the head of Rostec, Sergei Chezmenov, told the Russian Prime Minister Mikhail Mishustin at a meeting recently that this has now been successful, and according to him, they're installing a high-powered turbine design at the Yudarnya station, which is being constructed on the Taman Peninsula. This is their first one that they've done. He said, "We are confident we can become independent of Siemens and GE, and we have constructed 3 power stations." The third situation. The 2 stations constructed in Crimea with a third Yudarnya station is scheduled for a full launch this year. Now, the GTD 110M is a high-powered serial gas turbine engine. Now, these types of turbines are used in most modern thermal and gas power plants. Now, the project was undertaken by RAO UES, Rusano, Gas Turbine Technologies Research Centre, and UEC Saturn, which is a subsidiary of Rostec. Units are manufactured at UEC Saturn in Rabinsk, which is in the Yaroslavl region. Now, these are the first units, but they'll be put into serial production from the middle of 2024, with about 2 units per year to begin with. Now, the lack of in-house high-power gas turbines really did represent a serious challenge for the Russian energy industry. Now, Russia's been attempting to localize its turbine production technology for over a decade. In addition to Rostec, there are power machine projects for 65 megawatt and 170 megawatt system. Now, this will enable the replacement of the installations from Siemens and GE, which are currently in use at gas-powered power stations. That's according to Sergei Grushin, who's the managing director of the NRA company. Now, a gas turbine, you've got to bear in mind, is approximately the size of a small house and can supply the energy needs of a reasonable sized city. Now, for a considerable period, it did appear that there were no viable alternatives to companies such as Siemens or GE. However, over the last few years, the four largest gas turbine manufacturers collectively invested over €1 billion into the research and development of a new type of turbine. Now, the release of this by Rostec, of the first Russian turbine, is a really important event for Russia. I mean, it's not only a matter of replacing Western products, but there's also a possibility of providing competition to them worldwide, such as what Russia has done in the nuclear industry. Now, this significant achievement is pretty different for Russia, and it's certainly an achievement, according to Pavel Sevastanov, who's a state advisor on energy development at the Russian Economic University. Now, back to Nicholas Perelavsky, who's head of the department at the CMS group, notes that high-powered turbines can now be mass-produced in Russia, and Russia had not produced gas turbines of such a high power rating. Now, while it had the expertise to manufacture small and medium-sized turbines, it lacked the capacity to produce the turbines with a capacity of 100 megawatts or more. So, when the construction of power plants started again in the 2000s, turbines were produced by Western companies, Siemens, General Electric. Subsequently, they set up some joint ventures with these companies, but they did not end up with the localization of production, so they were still being imported. Now, at the same time, these foreign companies generate substantial revenue in Russia, not only from the sale of their turbines, but from the maintenance repair services. Now, high-power turbines that are now about to be mass-produced in Russia, they used to be about 90%, and that's significant vulnerability for Russia when sanctions hit. However, when the primary suppliers, Siemens and GE, ceased operations in Russia and exited the joint venture, it became apparent that the necessity for replacing these high-powered gas turbines had become very pressing. Now, a short-term measure was announced, and that was a number of facilities began to replace the Western turbines with turbines of a lower level of power. In the past, Russia always chose to buy foreign stuff, mainly because it was not lack of competence, but economic reasons. It was cheaper and easier, and there was no need to build them, as they could quickly import them and deploy them to the new energy capacities. Now, because of the context of the political and economic challenges, the priorities have now changed. Today, the ability to independently produce key components for energy infrastructure is a matter of national security and economic sustainability, and that's according to Pereslavsky. Now, Russia started to produce its own high power gas turbines when Siemens announced that it was no longer going to supply these after the situation that developed in Crimea in 2014. However, the development since then has not been without problems. I mean, the first attempt of a GTD110 installation was not successful. It was actually destroyed during testing. These are the sort of things that you've got to expect, though, when you're dealing with the development of seriously complex equipment. I mean, similar incidents have happened with prototype installations in China, where the level of engineering personnel for power machines is considerably lower than it is in Russia. Now, I mean, if you increase the weight of rotating structures, inevitably they lead to a sharp risk of imbalance, which at such high speeds simply breaks the installation into pieces. So, the appearance of a working series of turbines here in Russia is a significant achievement and a testament to the country's engineers, says Sergei Grushin of the Rostec. Now, as a result of the Rabinsk OD case, after successfully addressing the issue, we've now pretty much resolved these issues. Now, the turbine itself has underwent serious modification and is tested very well at the Ivanova power plant, and that makes it kind of likely that they'll go into mass production. Now, this domestic turbine is actually lighter and more compact with a greater fuel efficiency than its foreign rivals, so there's been some serious benefits. Now, according to Pereslavsky, the plan is to produce 2 to 3 turbines per year, with the number increasing over time. Now, the goal is to replace all the imported units with domestic ones as time goes on. Now, in parallel, another Russian company, Power Machines, is also developing a high-power turbine, which illustrates the complexity and multidisciplinary nature of this particular task. Now, Power Machines itself has set a target of 12 turbines per year. Now, this is serious competition, but it's not expected to have a negative impact on the sector. In fact, another 2 manufacturers will make it much better for the whole industry at large, particularly as for modernisation. I mean, currently there's 310 gas turbine units in operation in power plants in Russia. Now, each turbine, if imported from abroad, costs between $30 and $40 million. Now, according to Grushin, by 2025, foreign suppliers could have made over $5 billion in Russia for the supply of equipment alone, without taking into account spare parts and the cost of installation, repairs and maintenance. Now, however, going forward, these orders are now going to be placed with domestic manufacturers, ensuring that the revenue generated remains in the country and the country becomes self-sufficient. Furthermore, Russia will no longer have to think about buying turbines from Iran. This was discussed back in 2022. Although that was surprising that Iran was able to produce high-powered gas turbines for some time when Russia had not. However, Iran did not develop its own technology, which is what the Russians have done. It simply managed to persuade Siemens to allow it to retain a license to produce the turbines despite the sanctions, and it imported materials and spare parts. However, the fact that Russia has now developed its own high-powered turbine from scratch, it's worth noting that it can now replace all its gas turbines with domestic ones as time goes on. Now, the typical lifespan of a turbine at a thermal power plant is about 30 years, and that can obviously, like a nuclear plant, be extended. So, with the majority of the equipment at Russian plants being supplied by Siemens and GE between 2012 and 2006, the equipment's actually not that old, and it's going to be replaced, but there's time for that, and that will allow the market to catch up. Now, according to calculations by the Russian Union of Industrialists, by 2027, the Russian generating companies will require at least 40 of these gas turbines, and Rostec has estimated the market will be near 60 by 2035. Now, if you take in the development of the Far East and the new regions that have just joined Russia, that may increase again. So, in a year or two, Russia will enter the top league of the world turbine industry in terms of volume and quality, and it will seriously compete with foreign companies that have left the domestic market. Anyway, that's the news on what's really going on in the world of the power situation. Thanks for watching. Please like and subscribe. Do visit the website, SCO where I publish new articles every day about what's going on in the world of the BRICS and all the new developments that are taking place. Thanks for watching, and I hope you've enjoyed this. Thank you.